The exciting part about the deliberations here at the Startup 20 in Boksburg is the experiences of the entrepreneurs themselves. What works in terms of policy formulation, what works and what do they need in terms of support from government, from ourselves as their potential customers and clients. And I thought that I'd step away from, the formal proceedings that are currently happening and speak to Liabo, who is now with Share the Code, to tell us about, what this means for him as an entrepreneur. He has started a lot of movements. Some have been successful, others not. But if we hear it from an entrepreneur themselves, it gives us a little bit of a better picture of just what happens on the ground. Liabo, thank you so much for your time. Always great pleasure speaking to you. First of all, let me get your first views about this meeting and what it means for you as an entrepreneur.
I think the Startup 20 is a great initiative, partly because it forms part of the global conversation. So a really great space and platform to be on. Having said that, we need to get serious and move beyond talking. Even in the policy recommendations, we know that we currently have quite a lot of policy recommendations that have been put and even policies in place. I mean, if you look at the BBBE Act, it's meant to spur the spirit of entrepreneurship and actually make tangible results on the ground. And we don't see that those results on the ground in the way that we anticipate or that we looked for as a country. I mean, we've got 2030 goals with the NDP. And it's currently quite a challenge to see how we're going to achieve that. If anything, we're seeing a reduction in the goals around job creation, solving for poverty and inequality. So what are we doing with the current goals that we have and the current policies that are currently in place? And therefore, as an entrepreneur and somebody who's representing communities of entrepreneurs on the ground, those are the frustrations, especially when you look at the township environment and the rural space. The frustrations are really about, we hear you, we hear the policy, they're great. How are you actioning it and how does it impact my life today? Because by the time certain policies are passed through, the startups are long dead. And we've seen that over and over where you've got jockeys who are actually great at building these businesses, but like in any other ecosystem and environment, you need to support the jockeys for the long term. So there's not enough of the betting on the jockey for the long term. So even the startup that is created or the small business that is out there, by the time it must get the support or actually gets looked at, now they want to study us as a case study in university on how we failed, and that's unfortunate. I know that there's a lot of things that you have started, and during your presentation, during the panel discussion, you talked about crowdfunding, and I know this because I covered it, and we spoke a lot about it in the past, and you talked about how there's a need to support innovations such as those, or at least systems such as those. Perhaps let's bring in our viewers to let them know why this was important and still is in the future. Well, crowdfunding is just a stokvel that went to private school. So it isn't anything new to African communities, but what you're often going to find is that it is a challenge when it comes to formal systems in terms of how it gets regulated. So it gets clubbed under collective investment schemes, and in the way that it's got a lot of punitive measures. So it does not spur the spirit of entrepreneurship in a natural way. And that's what happens in the informal economy on the ground. It has been happening with our gogos and our communities. We take our kids to school because we use stokvels. Even with the new age black professionals that you see in corporate spaces, they still use stokvels, and there's actually a rise in stokvels from educated people. But it is so tightly regulated in that environment that when you start thinking about investment opportunities and building that up, that muscle up as a way of spurring SME investment, it is a frustrating process. So this conversation of how to regulate such in a way that actually enables entrepreneurship instead of stifling it is a very important one. Why? Because collective capital and community capital are very important instruments in the funding space as an alternative funding schemes that help the average entrepreneur in the township to be able to collect money from people around them, but also for the community to take part in the ownership of that venture. That builds that lengthens the life cycle of the business and ensures that there's actually sustainability in those models.
As I let you go, tell us about the Share the Code. What's different about it? What does it do?
Well, Share the Codes is geared around vetting these SMEs that we've been building over the years and making sure that they're export ready. That's really where we're at. We're creating channels of investment and opportunity for SMEs that want to participate in the Africa Trade Agreement. It's called the Continental Free Trade Agreement. Markets that are like Asia, there's a lot of opportunities for export, but there's not enough export-ready businesses. And we are trying to play in that value chain because we've realized that there is no shortage of capital. We can raise the capital. We've raised it many times over. We've got alternative ways of raising it. But there isn't enough of a ready pool of SMEs that are actually export-ready. And why is this important? We're part of the brigade that is fighting the unemployment, the youth unemployment, the poverty, the inequality. And entrepreneurship is a key enabler for that. So and the model is centered around partnering with universities and TVETs. So we're decentralizing the model and make sure that it's locally owned, but bringing in corporate partnerships to make sure that it thrives and the entrepreneurs actually get to see trade happening.
I can't wait to see how it all comes together, but I'll be keeping an eye on it. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. I've been having a conversation with Liabo. He is an entrepreneur, started a lot of ventures, and now he tells us about Share the Code. In the light of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, they are putting together ways in which to make sure that businesses are export ready.